Hi guys, today in lesson 20, we're going to be solving word problems involving addition and subtraction of fractions. Here is our first problem. We're going to read it together. Katrina walks 6/10 of a mile to the library. Then she walks 1/3 of a mile to the bookstore. How far does Katrina walk? Write your answer in simplest form. Think about what you hear in this problem and what you can draw to help you solve this problem. Go ahead and pause the video and draw a picture to help you solve this problem. So we could draw a tape diagram or a picture showing that she walks a fraction to the library and then another part to the bookstore. So part of a mile to the library and part of a mile to the bookstore. We know that this one is 6/10 and this one is 1/3. So looking at our tape diagram, we know we're going to add these two fractions together. So looking at these two fractions, are they related? Are their denominators related? No, their denominators are not related. So we're going to have to use an area model or multiplication in order to find a common denominator so that we can solve our problem. So go ahead and use this time to pause the video and draw an area model or solve using a common denominator to solve this problem. Here are my two area models. And in order to be able to add these two fractions, I know that I'm going to have to decompose so that we then have a common denominator. So my 6/10, I want to decompose into 3 parts or multiply by 3. And my 1/3, I want to decompose into 10 parts or multiply by 10. That's going to give me a common denominator. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so now I have both of my fractions broken into their decomposed parts. I decomposed 1/3 into 10 pieces and I decomposed 6/10 into 3 pieces. So now we should have fractions, equivalent fractions to our first fractions that both have a common denominator. Our new common denominator should be 30. We should have 30 total pieces. And then in 6/10, we have 18 shaded, and in 1/3, we have 10 shaded. So we can add those together, and we end up with 28 over 30. So 28/30ths, we want to make sure that we simplify our answer because it says write your answer in simplest form. So when we are simplifying, what we want to do is find a common factor between these two numbers. Well, I know that 28 has a factor of 2 and 30 has a factor of 2 because they are both even numbers. So I can divide both of these numbers by 2. So we can start there. 28 divided by 2 is 14, and 30 divided by 2 is 15. Now we have 14 fifteenths, and 14 fifteenths do not have a common factor. So that is our answer in simplest form. When we're solving word problems, we need to make sure we write our answer as a statement, showing that we understood the problem. So the problem's asking us, how far does Katrina walk? And we found out that she walks 14 fifteenths of a mile. So Katrina walks 14 fifteenths of a mile. Okay, here's our next question. Jeremy wants to make cookies for the class. He uses 3/4 of a cup of white chocolate chips and 1 1/3 cups of milk chocolate chips in his recipe. How many cups of chocolate chips does Jeremy use in his cookies? Write your answer in simplest form. Okay, so we are going to figure out what we need to do in order to solve this problem. So what strategy, what operation, mathematical operation, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, are we going to use to solve this problem? Well, we have white chocolate chips and milk chocolate chips, and he's putting them all together in his cookies. So we want to add our two fractions. Okay. When we're adding with mixed numbers, we just want to change the fractional part of the mixed number that's added. So when we draw our area model, we're going to just ignore our whole for a second and then add it back in when we're ready to add together. So we're going to start by drawing our area model. There's my 3/4 and my 1/3. And remember, we're just kind of ignoring that whole just for a second while we add our fractional pieces together. And then we're going to add our whole back in. So I have 1/3 over here on this side, but I only have 1/4 left to get to a whole. So we know that our answer when we add these two fractions together is going to be greater than 1 whole. So we're going to break our fourths into thirds, into 3 pieces. We're going to decompose our thirds into 4 pieces. So total, our new denominator is 12. And we started with 9 pieces because we would multiply by 3. So we broke it into 3 parts. And then on this side, we're going to have 4 12ths. When we add them together, we end up with 13 12ths. In order to figure out what mixed number that's going to be, we need to use a number bond. So our whole is 12/12, and then we have 1/12 left, which gives us 1 and 1/12. Now, we took out this whole when we were adding these two fractions together, right? So we need to add our whole back into our answer. So 1 and 1/12 plus 1 is going to give us 2 and 1/12, which is our answer. Now remember, when we're solving word problems, we want to make sure we're right by writing our answer in a statement. So we have, how many cups of chocolate chips does Jeremy use in his cookies? Well, Jeremy uses 2 and 1/12 cups of chocolate chips. Okay, so last question we're going to do together. I want you to read this question, see if you can figure out how to solve this question, and then come back when you're ready to start solving. To reason through this problem, I thought about fabric, and I thought about a whole yard and then what Jack had. So Jack has 2/3 of a yard of fabric. So what I did is I showed how much fabric he had. Then it says he uses 2/4 of a yard to make a scarf. Well, I know 2/4 is less than 2/3. So he uses 2/4 of the yard of fabric from this 2/3 of fabric. So what we're subtracting really is, like, if we overlay, we're subtracting this part of the fabric. So we need to figure out how much fabric is left. So we're looking for this piece and how much that is. Now, using this picture, this is not accurate, so we don't want to use this picture to help us solve this problem. We want to use an area model where we can find a common denominator. So we can draw our area models, which I'm going to draw them up, down. And we know we want to subtract, right? We want to subtract our two pieces. So 2/3 minus 2/4. Okay. So one thing that we notice about 2/4, you might notice that 2/4 is equal. So you could also problem where you 2/3 minus 1/2, and that would be acceptable for your area models as well, if you want to do that. And that answer will myself, and I'm going to use 2/3 minus 1/2. Okay, so I'm going to decompose my fractions. And my new fractions are, we would multiply this by 2, this by 2, this one by 3, this one by 3. And we end up with 4/6 minus, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minus 3/6. And our answer is 1/6. Okay, so with our word problems, I'm expecting your answer to be written as a statement. So we want to say Jack has 1/6 of a yard of fabric left. And this answer makes sense because 1/6 is less than both of the answers, definitely less than 2/3 of the yard of fabric that he started with.